Hey everybody, it's Rajesh here.
In Tane here.
Welcome to our podcast, Baskets of Knowledge, Chats with a Difference. In our podcast, we invite guests from around the country and around the world to talk about how they got to where they're at the moment. It's about a journey, it's about an experience, it's about their life. Hey, kia ora koutou, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Baskets of Knowledge. For new listeners, welcome. To regular listeners, thank you for jumping on again. And it's fun having you here. Tanya might join us a bit later on. And as always, we like to share a bit of korero before we start. What did I put into my Baskets of Knowledge over the last podcast recording? I've just finished reading a book by Yuval Harari. I think he's a fantastic author in the way he looks at the world. And the book I just finished reading is called Nexus, and Nexus is about AI and what AI, the capabilities and all that fun stuff there. And one of the crazy learnings for me was, we always talk about information is power, and that's true, but it's actually what do we do with information that makes it powerful. And as we think about the world of AI, currently humans create information and they use it for whatever way. But with the way AI is going, AI is going to start creating the information and then who holds the power. So it's just a different revelation. And we speak about he speaks about the Bible and how the Bible, we talk about the printing press. The printing press was a great tool. It didn't change the world, but it was the people who chose to print the version of the Bible that changed the way of the world. So not the printing press. The printing press allowed things to go much faster. Yeah, and yeah, it's just really fascinating, really, if you have a chance to get hold of it. It just makes you think about AI in a very, very different way. Not a good way or a bad way, just a very different way. So that's my learning over the last podcast and amongst all the other learnings I've had. But enough about me. If you want a monologue, you jump onto Jimmy Kimmel or one of those other crazy shows there. We're not here to do that there. We're not here about comedic stuff. We're here about seriousness. Just kidding. It is my privilege and my joy and my real I don't know what the word is, but it's a lot of emotions to invite our guest to the podcast today. I've known this guest for a while, and I've known them, and they've done some really amazing things. They're very humble, so they might not think about it, but I've watched them from closely and from afar. And they are a person that I look up to, and I think people in the community look up to as well, even though he might not know that they're. And which is why I thought it'd be fun to have them on today to talk about their journey. We see the highlights, but there's a lot of stuff that happens behind the scenes that motivates this young person to do what they do in so many aspects of their life. Yeah, and so like I said at the start, it's my honor, my privilege, and a real blessing to have our guest on today. So welcome to Basket's Knowledge, Sam, and thank you for joining us this evening.
Kia ora, Prajesh, and kia ora to everyone listening. Thank you for that amazing intro. Don't know how much that was deserved, but it was lovely to hear. So thank you.
No worries. Like I said, very humble, very, very humble. So, Sam, for our listeners out there who know nothing about you, let's talk about where is Sam Landis at this point in time. What is Sam Landis doing, and what is Sam up to this at this point in time?
So currently I'm studying towards a Bachelor of Medicine and Bachelor of Surgery down at the University of Otago. I've just finished my second year in that degree. So looking forward to third year in 2025, bring it on. But it's kind of been a bit of a long road to get there. So I went through, did an undergrad first, Bachelor of Science. I did a major in anatomy, minor in sport and exercise. That was kind of always a bit of a hobby passion of mine. But I was really fortunate to be able to learn some incredible information from some incredible people along that way. And I'm a firm believer of everything happens for a reason. So I actually missed out on medicine. After my first year health science, I was on the wait list and then just never got called up, never got called up, never got called up. And that was actually quite agonizing at the time because they can email you at any time in about 3 month window and you've got 24 hours once that email comes. So I was checking emails every day and it got to the point where actually I'd rather have just found out that I wasn't in than the kind of length and agony of, oh, I might get it tomorrow. But I've had some incredible opportunities in my undergrad that I wouldn't have had I got him the first time. So um, yeah, absolutely loved that part of my journey.
No, beautiful. It's so crazy, you do health safe first year, which is I'm going to use the word. It is like going to up into battle, really, essentially, in so many ways. And then you finish the battle, and now the torture starts. It's really quite painful that they make you do that there. And hopefully they're going to change that, because that's not nice for anybody, especially for a young person that's waiting after, a pretty challenging year. So I can see why you're like, just say yes or no, just tell me, just end the misery. So yeah. But Sam, this is where you're at this point in time. But let's go back a little bit and let's talk about, you've grown up in rural Taranaki, in a place called Hawara. For those of you that have heard the podcast before, we've had people from Hawara on before. But yeah, what is it like for you as a young person growing up in Hawara, and in context of you wanting to be a doctor? Was that something that started very young, or was it something that came into your thinking a bit later on as you got a bit older?
It's a lovely question actually. Um, for me, it actually came on really late. Um, I know so many people that from almost the minute they could talk, they wanted to be a doctor, and a lot of that might have been inspired by parents or family in the medical field. But for me, I've none of my direct family are in the medical field, doctors, nurses, healthcare assistants, anything. So I don't know. It kind of sprawled up quite late. It was probably halfway through my year 13 that I thought, wow, okay, I've always kind of had it as a pipe dream, but um, you never get to you'll never get to where you want to be unless you go for it. So, but in terms of growing up in Howard, so I've been very fortunate. My parents are so supportive of me, and have always been. And so yeah, I've been brought up on a dairy farm, about 15 minutes west of Hawaii near Kaupokanui Beach, which is a great spot. Don't I don't want to get everyone there because it's a lovely little slice of paradise, but it is wonderful. And um, yeah, I guess growing up in a rural area kind of, I don't know, it kind of made the move to university quite a big shock. There's probably more people in my first year papers than there were at my whole high school. So um, it's definitely eye opening in that regard. Um, but I wouldn't change it for the world. And yeah, just absolutely loved it.
And talking about the world as well, you speak about growing up in a beautiful part of paradise, as we like to call it. Um, the world was not a stranger to you, because when I was doing my little background research about you, Sam, I noticed that you've also been, when you were young, you also had an Olympiad, and you went overseas for that. What is that like for you as a young person? We speak about going to university, but what about that experience going on an Olympiad with random people? What is that like for you?
Well, that's probably an interesting story in itself, and I can probably expand a little on that.
Go on, expand away, expand away.
Um, so I've always had a passion for geography. Geography has always been a passion of mine. I would come home from school at primary, and I would come home, and I don't know where my parents got it from, but we have this massive, we still have it actually, A2 sized atlas. It's about 200 pages. And I honestly used to come home at 7, 8 years old, and the first thing I would do is I'd run and I'd grab the atlas and I'd sit on the lounge floor and just look through the pages and just essentially come up with, like, I wonder what these places look like. I wonder what the people there are doing right now. And I don't know, I just had always had a passion for geography, and kind of never there was never really an avenue to kind of explore that. Like I've always wondered, how I guess how far my passion for that went, and whether other people in the world had the same passion as me. And I was very fortunate that a teacher of mine at Howard High School, Diana Reed, she was amazing. She was my geography teacher, and she introduced this opportunity to me in probably year 10. She said, Sam, when you get to year 12, you need to apply for this. I want you to go for it. Um, And so year 12 came around, and yeah, it was for this. It's called the IGO Olympiad, or International Geography Olympiad. Essentially, the Geography Olympics for year 13, and they take four from New Zealand each year. Um, and so I had to run essay to get shortlisted down to eight, and then the eight of us all went down to Wellington for a day where we did lots of different activities and kind of almost did a mini version of what the week would look like. And yeah, fortunately, I got the phone call when I arrived back home the next day to say, "Hey, Sam, you've been picked." And I don't know, it was almost like that childhood dream of, like, oh, I wonder what an All Blacks call up would look like. And that's kind of what it felt like. We'd literally just gotten home. Mum was still unpacking. Me and Mum was still unpacking the car. I got the phone call, kind of rushed over to a corner, and I remember I finished the phone call, and Mum was like, "Where the hell are you?" I unpacked the rest of the car by myself, and I said, "Well, actually, I've just got in." And
Yeah.
so tears were definitely shed. And it was awesome. The other three people that got selected, I'm still in contact with a couple of them, but unfortunately, it actually never came through. So we know that in 2020, it's the year of the COVID, and so the event was meant to be held in August in Istanbul. Um, yeah, was looking forward to it, and then it got to kind of March, and obviously things started shutting down, and we didn't know what was coming next. And I don't know if that could have been an inspiration for me to then get into the medical field. I'm not too sure, but yeah, eventually it was cancelled, and unfortunately, it was kind of too late for them to kind of conjure up any kind of online version, which I know that they did the next year. So yeah, unfortunately, I'll never know kind of where that passion was, and for me, it was never about the how well I'd do over there. It was the people I'd meet. One of the parts I was really looking forward to was you stay in a university when you're over there for the couple of weeks, but they don't room you with your team. They room you with they'll grab a
Others,
kid from
yeah.
Belgium and a kid from the States and a kid from South Africa, and you'll all stay in the same dorm room. And it was those kind of friendships that I don't know, that for me was the biggest disappointment about the whole thing being cancelled, was just that opportunity was lost. Mm.
It's so crazy because, as you said, at that point in your time in your life, you hadn't decided what you wanted to do in the next stage. And who knows if you had gone over geography might have been in your storyline, and life just happens, and sometimes the best worst things happen in life which change your whole trajectory. And as you said at the start, things happen for a reason. And but the thing also that I want to acknowledge is that people are very important to you. And the reason I bring that is because as we talk about the next stage in your life, you come to university. We'll talk about your study in a bit there, but I want to talk about something else that the really inspirational side is. Every year that I've known you at university, you have done something that is not linked to study. And let's talk about that, where you've done all these physical feats, you've done these things that push that test you. So let's talk about that there. Where does that come from? And what was the first thing that you did? And then yeah.
I don't know. I guess sometimes I just have to do insane things to try and keep me sane. That doesn't really
Yeah.
make sense, but in my head it does. And I don't know where that kind of all stemmed from. I think I was actually never really a big runner. So you'll know, British, a lot of my physical feats that I've done have been running
Yeah.
related. Um, and I was never really a big runner. I enjoyed cross country, but I was never really great at it. And then COVID lockdown came along, and fortunately, being out on the farm meant that it meant that I could go for a 5K run and not see a single soul. I might pass the lone tanker driver who's still working and collecting milk, but I don't know. I went for quite a few good runs during that period. Like I remember one of them, I went for around the block. But around here, that's 20 k's. So I guess that's kind of where it started, and then it kind of just grew from there. Of I want to run a marathon at some point, and then I just want to test my body to the limit and see how far I can push it. Um, and for me, running's always been not only something that I do for my physical well-being, but mental as well. It's just a nice to be out in nature or listening to music, and just it's just you, your feet on the pavement, and endless possibilities of where you can run. Um, so I remember doing Relay for Life in my first year at Hayward College, and it was based at the clock tower, and you do the clock tower loop. And my original aim, I think, was to run. Oh, I didn't even really have an aim going into it. I just saw the day beforehand that I'd had something like $630 donated towards me from friends and family, and I thought, well, I want to do what kind of challenge can I make out of that number?
Yeah.
And eventually, it was, can I run 100 meters for every dollar? So it meant trying to run 63.1 k's over the 12 hours. And I remember I had my brother Josh down as well, so he probably spent half the night in our little Hayward College tent while I was running around in circles. Um, but yeah, ended up running, I think, 67 k's, and I guess it blew my mind that I could even run that far. Um, it wasn't looking like it at many points that night. But yeah, and I've done a couple of other Relay for Life events. My one this year, I know I did 75 Ks. A couple of years ago, it was cancelled due to COVID, so you could relay on your own instead. And so I thought, what better way to spend my March Sunday morning down in Dunedin than to walk from my flat all the way out to the albatross colony on Otago Peninsula and back, and see if I could do it in 12 hours. And I remember it took me 12 hours, 7 minutes, and my flatmates, yeah, it looked like I'd just come back from Antarctica apparently when I walked back through the door. So, um, yeah, I guess, I don't know. It's just always been, and it's crazy. After every one, I think, my goodness, I'm not going to put myself through that again, because why would I? And then it just kind of gets to, a few months down the track, and it's like, right, what can I do next? But I enjoy it. So yeah, it's always a nice little challenge.
Yeah, and you've just recently just finished 200 Ks running. Is that correct? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, 200 k's for Movember. A group of friends of mine. So my probably two best mates from high school, who are both studying down in Palmy. I'll do a little shout out. Michael Hip and Oliver Arnold. Absolutely love the guys. And then a whole bunch of mates that they know from down in Palmy. There was 10 of us. And so we were trying to raise $1,000 and collectively do 1,000 k's, so 100 k's each.
Yeah.
But for me, that wasn't quite adequate enough. So I thought, right, I'll do 200. Um, and yeah, managed to just get it done thanks to some, once again, wild runs in the past 2 weeks. So yeah, it's nice to have it done. My toes aren't very grateful, but yeah, they'll heal.
Yeah. They'll heal exactly. But the other, and that's really beautiful, but also the other aspect of that is you've always attached it to a cause. It's not just been I'm going for a run. I mean, that's cool. But
Yeah.
let's talk about that there. That's you know, what drives you to doing this for causes? You can do this and just casually. Is there a motivator for you? A personal motivator?
I just think it's always nice to do things for others. Like I guess I've just grown up in a very charitable family. My mum and dad, I know, give to a few different charities around, and they've always kind of said, there are some really great charities out there doing some really awesome work. Um, and yeah, I've never personally had any experience like with these charities to actually see their work, but um, you can see the good, especially in the Relay for Life, like the Cancer Society. You can definitely see. I've had extended family members go through them, and just the amount of stress that can take off a family when they're in quite a vulnerable and stressed out period. Um, yeah, I just think that, it'd be great if these charities didn't need our money all the time, but that's just unfortunately the way it is. So I figure any opportunity to help them out is going to be great for everyone, and you never know when you or I or my mum or my dad or grandparent will need
Yes.
the assistance of one of these places in the future. So yeah, that's kind of my reasoning behind it. It's not strong, but yeah, that's
Oh,
I guess why.
I think that's a very valid reason. The reason I ask is, sometimes people think that you have to have a like you said, a direct contact with something's happened, but you don't have to. You can just be, I'm just going to be a good person, and I'm just going to do this just because it's a good. It's not. I'm not going to use the right or wrong because it's not right or wrong. It's just what you feel is correct for you to do at that point in time, and that's really beautiful. Um, I'm going to shift a little bit, and now I'm going to talk about. You spoke about just before you said, um, you spoke about what getting an All Blacks call would be like, and you said that were amazing. But what is it like getting your offer in medical school? Because you didn't get it the first time around. You spoke about how torturous that was. And the second time around, you have a bit of a feeling that, hey, I've done everything I can do. My grades are looking amazing, but again, it's out of your control. You have no say as to what happens there. What is that like for you when you got the email that says, Sam Landers, congratulations?
I guess it was the overwhelming emotion at the time was relief. Um,
Yep,
I've never been one to kind of exam results come out, whatever, to have a look straight away. Um,
yep.
I've always kind of been one that I'll just have a look at it sometime this afternoon. It's not going to go anywhere. But I remember this particular the day it came out. I remember it vividly because I was at my grandparents, who live down near Levin, and they've always been massive supporters of me. My grandparents, my mum's parents. They've come to every prize giving assembly that I had in primary and in high
Wow.
school. And that kind of hasn't changed as I've gotten older. They're in their early 80s now. And I'll never forget them coming to my graduation, for my undergrad back in May. That for me will always remain one of the most special days of my life to be able to have them there. My grandmother is not the greatest fan of flying, and to get from Leuven to Dunedin, you have to fly really. And so she did, and her, my granddad, my mum and dad flew down, and yeah, to be able to have photos of them with my degree in front of the clock tower, it was honestly, yeah, honestly amazing. And fingers crossed they'll be here when I graduate the next time around because I'd love to be able to have them down again. Um, but I was at their place when I got the emails to say, and to be honest, it actually caught me off guard. I knew that I'd put the work in, and my grades that they were good, but not as high as I potentially would have liked them to have been. And I was actually really nervous that I wasn't going to get an offer. And I'd actually put an offer in for dentistry and physio at the same time. So um, it had probably gotten to the point where if I'd gotten an offer for physio, I don't know if I actually would have taken it. But dentistry was definitely one I was kind of getting more and more, um, I guess, accustomed to liking if that was going to be the offer I got. And then yeah, I guess the sheer relief when I woke up at their place that morning to see that I actually had offers for all three, and I had kind of 2 weeks to reply back. And to be fair, it took me a week, but I think deep down I knew what one I was always going to go for.
Yep.
And so for them to be the first ones to hear that I got an offer when I came out for breakfast that morning, um, yeah, kind of there were a few tears shed from all three of us. So yeah, that's another memory that I'll never forget.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing that because obviously what comes across is that you and your whānau are pretty tight, especially your grandparents, and to have them there for your graduation, but even your prize givings at school, and as you said before, the fact that they were there when you got this offer here, which is essentially, we talk about the All Blacks call, which is awesome, and I'm gonna say getting accepted into medical school in New Zealand is probably a bit harder than getting to All Blacks, because of the number of spots that are available. And no disrespect to any All Blacks out there, but I think getting that phone call or getting the email, the text or whatever it is because we all know how hard it is, and we know it's not about whether the fact that you are academically able, it's whether there's a space available for you. It's the thinnest of margins at 0.1%, can make or break that whole decision making process. So Yes, so well done to you. And in the theme of rugby, because this is all everything's linked here, let's talk about your foray into the world of being a rugby referee. Where did that come from? And was that something that, again, I speak about this because these are things that just you just picked up and decided that you want to run with, literally.
Yeah, literally. That one probably has come probably one of the biggest shocks out of out of everything I've pursued. Yeah, that kind of started, I guess, probably halfway through my first year at uni, so probably 2021. I remember my group of friends, we would always watch Highlanders games on a laptop in Max Ballott's room, who's a great friend of mine and has been on the podcast. And it kind of just got to the point where I would be not necessarily making the call before the referee was, but I would kind of be saying it. The referee would make the decision, and everyone else in the room would kind of be going, what was that call for? And I'd explain it through, and they'd want to rewind and watch the replay, and I'd, oh yeah, yeah, all good. And then they kind of said, oh, Matt, Sam, you should pick up refereeing. Like, this is, you're fit. You seem well knowledge. I don't know how accurate that was, but this could be right up your alley. And so it took me probably a year from that point before I actually reached out to the local refereeing organisation. And by then it was probably August, September. So the season was pretty much dead, and I was kind of planning on joining in the following year. So that was February 2020. So this time last year, I've just finished my second year of refereeing. But at the time, it was probably another good excuse to. I've always found it hard down Dunedin during the winter, getting motivation to do any form of exercise, especially when you're at uni from essentially sun up at 8 o'clock to sundown at 5. Trying to go for a run in the dark or whatever is always it's a mission. And so I deep down, I think I needed something that would motivate me to stay active and stay fit. And refereeing was kind of perfect for that. And in hindsight, because hindsight's always wonderful, it's something that I wish I'd known about during high school, because I would have started it way back then. I've always had a passion for rugby. I never did anything rugby at high school. I'm not exactly the biggest bloke, so I didn't really want to get crushed and concussed and everything else that comes along with it. Um, but it's another one of those really strange things where I've kind of always wanted to get to the highest level of a sport or get to the world stage of a sport. And I've kind of gone through and gone, okay, rugby's definitely not a chance. I played quite a lot of tennis, but I knew that was never going to happen. Did some indoor bowls, but that you can't really get too high with the indoor bowls. And then kind of rugby refereeing came along, and I thought, oh, I love rugby. You've got the opportunity to go to World Cups, to go to the Olympics for sevens. And it's just something that I really, really enjoy doing. And it's where it's completely different from my studies, and I mix with a whole completely different crowd of people, which was another reason for doing it, because pretty much all of the friends I'd made down in Dunedin were study related. So whenever I'd catch up with them, it would always go back to study or assessments or whatever. Whereas the referees, we've got ones who are surf lifesavers, to cops, to one of the top academics at the Polytech. And you just get to meet a whole different range of people in the ref side, and then you get to meet a whole different range of people in the players. And so that's a real passion of mine now. I would say it's my top sport, and I would love to just see how far I can go. And if I could say that I've gone to an Olympics or gone to a World Cup, then I would have well and truly exceeded my expectations. But we've got some great mentors within our organisation. We've got a member of our organisation who consistently referees Super Rugby and referees Test matches at the highest level. There's another great New Zealand referee, Paul Williams, who hails from Taranaki, and I've had the pleasure to meet him a couple of times. And another one is Dr. Ben O'Keefe. So he's balanced doing a med degree at Otago with refereeing, and now he referees at the highest level, and did the World Cup semi final last year. So yeah, if I could get anywhere near the level of those guys, then I would have done very well indeed.
And there's nothing holding you back from that there. As you said, as we've followed your journey, you give it a crack and the rest follows through. But you've spoken about all these amazing aspirations, but I want to ask you, what's it like going from that um laptop conversation of, laptop referee to your first when you got in the first time? What is that like for you?
That for me was a crazy experience. I've never been one to kind of stand out or kind of make myself known, I guess. I've always kind of enjoyed being a little bit under the radar. Um, but then obviously once you're in the middle with the whistle, there's no hiding away from it. You are in control. Everyone's eyes are on you sometimes to make a decision or a non-decision, which are often just as important. And so for me, it was actually a real struggle in the first year. I'd be lying if I said I didn't have imposter syndrome throughout a lot of my refereeing last year. Um, I did have a situation of relatively significant verbal abuse, probably 2 months in, um, which has been fostered. And the guy apologized, and if I see him around now, I can say hello and we can have a conversation. There was the option to go either like jury or kind of just I guess like a remedial chat with him for a coffee. And so I wanted to go with that option. I didn't want to have to fear going to this particular club or having to see him again. And that was actually really eye opening. We had a great conversation, and I'm really glad it went that way. Um, but yeah, I guess it came as a shock because that was refereeing an under eights, a year eights game. So 12,
Yeah.
13-year olds, which was crazy to me that some a grade that low could be so heated. Um, but yeah, no, it was hard in that year, and then this year I kind of thought I'd start from where I was last year, which was kind of quite confident. Um, and that's where I think part of the medical getting into medicine kind of crossed over again. Getting into medicine surgery, I got more imposter syndrome being around so many amazingly smart and talented people, and you always get those thoughts of, why am I here? That these people are so much brighter than I am. What am I doing? And so for me, that crossed over with my refereeing again, and I started this year with the same thing. I'd refereed my first couple of games, thinking, what am I doing out here? I should just be staying watching on the sideline or doing something else. And um, I fortunately had a really great mentor on both sides, on the medical side and on the refereeing side. And the referee one, he's very high up in the polytech, and he said to me that he still gets imposter syndrome now, and he's um, middle aged, and I would say he's had quite an accomplished career in life. And to hear that from him kind of, I guess, gave me the confidence that it's okay not to kind of not feel comfortable. It's how can you be uncomfortable? How can you be comfortable feeling uncomfortable? That's
Yeah.
how you get through it. And so it was kind of a really rough start to this season, and then I don't know, it was like a switch flicked in about May, and from then on, it's been smooth sailing, and I would say it got to the point where I've never felt more confident out in the middle of the field. Um, and so we're just trying to carry that on into next year, and we're going to carry it on because that's the attitude you need to have.
No, beautiful. But what I appreciate there is the fact that, hey, it doesn't matter whether you are um, coaching or sorry, referring at year eight or whether you are referring at, at a higher level, that the imposter syndrome is part of every single one of us every single day. And I think the more awareness though that this is normal has, then it takes away the word imposter. Actually, this is just me experiencing these emotions. But the power is that you had mentors that spoke to you. And I think one thing that I've noticed here is the power of your connection with other people that have got you through or have celebrated your successes. And those challenges as well. And sticking to the refereeing, what has been your highlights? We spoke about that challenge that you had, when somebody was, not very nice to you. But what has been your highlight? And I guess, ups and downs. But what's Sam's like number one highlight in so far? I know it's a hard question, but if you had to pick,
For refereeing.
or if for refereeing, yeah, for refereeing, yeah,
I would say there's definitely a couple. Being able to have in-depth conversations with these top level test referees is, it's invaluable in my opinion. And so to be able to have some of those experiences has been great. But probably my number one has been it was probably actually the last game I refereed this year. It was back in August, and I was very fortunate to get picked to referee the Otago under 15 finals. It was between a team from Otago Boys High School and a team from Timaru Boys High School. And I'd actually refereed the same game 2 weeks earlier. So I kind of knew what was coming. I knew both the captains. I knew it was going to be a really tight game. It was up at Otago Boys. And I don't know if you've been up to that ground before, but it's such a lovely view over the city and the old
yeah.
grandstand. And it's it's just really lovely. And it was a really, really tight game. I think it finished 21-17 in the end. It was
Oh
really
wow,
close. And I don't often have ARs or touch line people for my game, but they had appointed two other referees to help me out, one on
oh
each
wow,
sideline. And so for me, that was kind of unexpected, or not unexpected, but unfamiliar, I guess. Um, and so to have such a tight game like that, and to be able to have them there to help me out, um, it got to the end of the game, and Timaru were down by four, and they had the ball in hand. My time was up by a couple of minutes by this stage, and they made a break down the sideline, and eventually I think they got bundled into touch from memory. But to kind of know that you kind of never really know how good of a job you've done when you blow the final whistle.
yeah,
It's not until you get to the sideline or you meet the coaches that you kind of go, oh, let's see what their reaction is, and I'll base it off that. But I actually thought I'd done a pretty good job in that game, and I had both my ARs tell me that I'd done well, and so that was good. But I guess the best moment for me was walking off and having the losing Timaru Boys High coach come up to me and say, "Mate, you did an absolutely awesome job. Thank you so much for refereeing us, and good luck for the rest of your year." And then I was very fortunate. A couple of weeks when I'd refereed the same game prior, I had this elderly guy come up to me after the match, and he was a granddad of one of the Timaru boys, and he'd driven down from Timaru to watch. And he'd said to me after that game, "What an awesome job I've done, and um, could I referee all their games from then on?" It's like it's that they, yeah, you get those people, and then and sure enough, he was there again for the final and came up to me and he recognised me and said, "You did an awesome job again. It's a pity Jimmy or whatever his name was didn't get over the line, but they played well and that was the right result in the end." And so for me, that's probably been my best moment. I'd say is getting that justification from the fans or from the spectators, those who are watching, that you did a good job. Um, yeah, I mean it's always satisfying. Um,
yeah, totally.
but to hear it from the bird's mouth was kind of, yeah, was lovely.
And also hearing it from the losing side, because normally the losing side will always have I mean, how many times have you played a sport where you lose a game and you blame everyone else under the sun?
Yeah,
But it's so well done, and also a testament to you because as you said before, being in the spotlight is not your jam, and being humble, but this is you. You have to put all that stuff away, that
yeah,
stuff which is not you, the imposter side really, and go actually for those few minutes to just embrace it and acknowledge that, which is really beautiful. Yeah, so thank you for sharing that there, Sam. And as you are navigating this as well, you spoke about all the running that you do and the refereeing. Let's shift just a little bit and just talk about what it's been like now. We before we jumped on, we spoke about this just briefly. What has it been like now, actually studying medicine, you've done your 3 years of hard mahi, you're doing all the other cool stuff and physically challenging stuff and mentally challenging as well. And then you also are doing some study there. What has been something that you have realized as you've been doing that there?
For me, it's been the realization that it is what I've wanted to do all along. Um, I say that all along in the last 5 years, probably. I can't say I really gave it much thought for that, but um, it's kind of knowing that this is the space that I want to be in. I've always kind of just been a, a love of knowledge, and with that being quite general, I always did all the science at school, and for me, I never had a favorite. I enjoyed all of them, and it kind of became it made sense when I came to university to study something that incorporates all of those things, whilst also trying to help people at the same time. And obviously, there's so many careers that you can do that in. But for some reason or another, medicine and surgery kind of stood out. And so, yeah, there were times at the start of the year where I was thinking, oh, should I have picked dentistry, But it did get to the point where I was like, yeah, I'm really glad I chose this because this is where I see myself doing the most help and most good in our communities. And yeah, the friendships I've made along the way, yeah, as we mentioned pre recording, it was you I felt like I didn't really have the chance to make those really good connections in my undergrad because anatomy and sports science there wasn't a lot of crossover in terms of people who are doing both, and so quite often I'm only sharing a couple of hours of my week with these different people in the one lab or the couple of lectures that we had, and I was also never really one to study at a library either, so I kind of just studied back in my flat, and that probably didn't help. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was just hard to make those connections. But this year, I guess when you're all doing the same course and you're all going through the same workload and what you're going through, there's also 349 or whatever others who are going through the same thing. And so I found a really really nice group of friends this year. We play social netball on a Wednesday, and that's been a highlight the whole year long. Um, and yes, some of them have been on the show before, like Marcus. Such a great friend of mine, and to be able to go through those experiences and challenges alongside those people who are all amazing people in their own right, um, has been a real joy and a pleasure. And through different, um, I guess you'd call them placements and stuff. And at the moment, whilst I'm back home, I've been volunteering my Fridays at Harvard Hospital and observing the doctors that they've got here. And they're amazing and they're brilliant. And um, they've probably got me more hands on than I was expecting. Got me to check breathing, check hearts, and what's your thoughts on this? And of course, it's all under such great supervision. But yeah, it's really gone. Yeah, I've made the right choice, and for me, that's probably the most satisfying part about it.
I love that. And the reason I asked that question is because, as you mentioned, with the Olympiad, you were gutted that you weren't able to share the dorm with these other amazing around the world. But now, as we think about where you are in your journey right now, you're going to share those experiences with 349 other people that come from a cross section of every color, creed, race, age, you name it. There's a whole, you have your um, first year health sciences that got in, and you have your super grads who've had a life, and you've had, and it's crazy awesome. So, think about that connection. It's come through for you at a certain point. So, and I love that coming through because for you, it's not just about the medicine, but the connection. So, I love that. And talking about connection as well, I want to ask you about what it's like. You name dropped Max just before as well. You've got a creative group of friends that do some crazy cool things. What is it like for you as a young person as you are part of this little group of friends and your flatting group that are also testing the boundaries in so many different ways?
For me, it's inspiring. I look at these people around me and I think you're the same age as me and you're doing all these incredibly amazing things. How could I do half of what you guys do? And so that they've always been such great inspirations for me. I'd have to say Max in particular because I've known him the longest, kind of out of any of those ones. I met him um, at the Otago University Science Academy back in my year 13. I remember meeting him on the very first camp. This is back in January 2020 now.
January.
Um, and since then, it's just kind of been a really, really awesome friendship. Um, we kind of coordinated to both go to apply to Hayward for our halls, which is a very competitive hall, as we found out. I think it was something like 500 people put it as their first option, and they've only got 180 rooms. So the fact that we both got in was kind of a small miracle in itself. And then it was going to be like a matter of, it's 4 stories, where are we going to be? And we turn up on the opening day, and our bedrooms are literally facing each other across the
Oh
hallway.
wow, what are the chances,
So
eh?
it was like, what are the chances? It was kind of destined to be. And so for him, he's a real go getter in my opinion. If he wants something, he'll go and get it. And so working through his podcast and now with his film photography and his different and he made a zine as well. So all these different creative outlets that he has and continues to do, I guess, has always been an inspiration for me of what you can do when you get your head down. Um, and it was probably part of that drove me to refereeing as well, because um, he'd be recording a podcast episode in the afternoon or something, and I'd be like, oh, what could I? I feel like I should be doing something now too. Um, and yeah, for me, having these people around has just always been brilliant, and yeah, um, yeah, just amazing, really.
And I think you should also take time to think about if I asked them the same question, they'd say we'd find Sam inspiring as well. So don't forget that as well. Which is why I think, sometimes when you're in a group of amazing, you don't understand that you are also just as amazing in your own way as well. So don't forget that as well. And you know, as you sit here today back at home, I'd love you to think about, as you think about, growing up in Hawara in a rural community. And you think about the young people that are at Te Papa now, Hawara High School, Te Papa, same thing. What would you say to them as they, I meet lots of young people. Well, sorry, in my previous role, I meet a lot of young people that they always felt that, hey, we come from this school here, and there's no chance that we're going to get in. It's the chances not going to happen, right? Because we come from a small community, like you said before, it's a pipe dream. Those are the words you used as well. What would you say to someone that is sitting there, and I guess in any rural community as well, not just in Hawara?
Yeah, I guess it's just that you you can never, nothing's impossible. If you put your mind to it, you can get it done. Um, you look around and there are so many not crazy stories out there, but stories that seem to go against all odds. Small town, you had everything against you, and you made it into the All Blacks or the Silver Ferns, or you made it as an actor or an actress or a music artist. There are just so many stories around like that it kind of defies odds, and it kind of gets to the point where it's like, okay, if there's enough of this happening, then it's not luck. It's hard work, and if you put your mind to it, you can get it done. Um, for me, that was part of the joy as well when I got accepted for the Olympiad was kind of putting Howard High School at the time, Howard High School to Whaipai o Aotea now, on the map, and kind of showing that you didn't have to go to a big city or boarding school to to get in these teams. I remember on the selection day that I had, where there was the 8 of us down in Wellington. I think they were from Auckland, Wellington, Christchurch, Dunedin, and then Howrah. And it was just I will never forget laughing when I arrived, and everyone's going, oh, where's everyone from? And of course they know where all those other ones were.
Yeah.
But when I said Halda, they were like, where's that? And it was like, we were there for geography. Like, come on. The irony was great.
Irony. Yeah.
But to kind of show that you don't need to go to a big school. I think the world is so much smaller than it used to be in terms of technology and just the opportunities that people have. I saw last year there was a couple of students from Tapaipai go to, I think it was like Dubai or
Yeah.
Qatar or somewhere in the Middle East for some sustainability conference, and it was like, wow, like could just be me getting slightly older, but I never remember that opportunity kind of when I was there. So it's just amazing what you can do nowadays. And so I would just say, like, never give up, chase your dreams, no dreams too small. Um, and yeah, if you want it, strive for it. Um, and even if you don't get it, that's okay, because that was me the first time for med. Um, but knowing that, if you gave it your best effort, then you can't be disappointed because you couldn't give more. Um, yeah, that would probably be my advice if I was talking to a group of teenagers nowadays.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I wanted you to speak to people that come from places where this is a pipe dream. I use the word pipe dream quite a bit. Where you go actually, why should it be me? But I just said in your just before, we've got lots of people that have done really well that have come from that have just crossed all the adversities, whether it's lack of finances, broken homes, whatever it's and they managed to make it become successful. So yeah, which is really beautiful. And I think that's a mindset shift that we have to have as well. That it is, it's believing, but also shifting the mindset and also doing the work. If you don't do the work, we all love manifestation and crystals, but if you don't do the work, that's not going to do anything. Yeah. So yeah. Um, Sam, we've been speaking for almost an hour now, and but before I ask my final question, is there anything else that you'd like to share that I haven't covered that you think would be wonderful for our listeners or myself to hear about before I? Because there's so much that we can unwrap and talk into, but I might just focus on the little highlights that I wish
Yeah,
to
no,
speak about.
it's been an awesome conversation. It's been a joy to catch up with you, Pradesh. It's been a while. But
Yeah,
no, I think you've covered all the main topics. I think. Yeah, it's just been a real enjoyable session. Yeah.
no, beautiful. And it's not we're not yet done though, Sam. We saved the best question for the last hurrah, I guess. So our podcast is called Passes of Knowledge, and every week we invite our guests to share a piece of knowledge to put into our kitty and our basket. So for myself and our listeners, and again, you shared lots in today's episode, but is there something that maybe you haven't shared or that still stands up for you as a piece of knowledge that would be applicable to our listeners in any aspect of life?
Yeah, I think I have. For me, one of my kind of mantras this year, I guess, I've probably got a couple if it's not overreaching.
Go
One
ahead.
one is it's okay not to know everything. That this is something that I'm still working on currently. And it's actually quite hard going into the medical field. Um, there is just so much content, and I kind of got to the end of this year and I thought, oh my goodness, like that was one year. I've got another five and then another four, and then I've got to kind of remember all of that stuff plus more for the rest of my career. And then you can't just know. No, you don't. Like, there's a reason why there are specialist doctors in different specialties, and that's because you just can't know everything. You can try your best to know as much as you can, um, but don't overreach yourself trying to know everything. And this applies for any kind of concept. It's okay not to know everything. Everyone, um, yeah, I think feels that way at some point or another. Um, but the struggles that you might be going through, it's guaranteed. There's a likelihood that there are others around you going through that same struggle, and there's also the likelihood that those who you may look up to in that particular area or field have gone through those struggles before. just like you are currently. So I think that's kind of one of my main ones is it's okay not to know everything. And then I'll just kind of finish with another one that I live by, and that's don't strive to make your presence known, but instead your absence felt. So you don't
Oh,
need to go out there
that's
and kind of
powerful.
prove yourself to everyone. Um, but if you can get yourself to a position where you're kind of the silent achiever, and then people think, oh my goodness, where is James today? You know, like or where's Olivia today? Because we seem really down. Then for me, that's kind of success painted. Mm.
I love both of those, and the fact that you don't have to know everything is really important because in all aspects of life, and I think about this myself as I venture into as I have my coaching business, I try to do everything, but somebody said the exact same thing to me. There's specialists out there, there's someone out there that can build a website for you. Don't stress about it. Don't try and do everything, because there's people out there, and I think that's in all aspects of life. There are people that are trained out there to do it, and it's okay to ask for help. But I think your second one is really profound. If you think about the world at the moment, and again, I'm generalizing. We have a world where social media, or actually all media, the algorithms strive for us to be out there, present all the time. Out there all the time. So we have that. Our brain has been wired that way. There, but I love the way you go. Hey, absence is where the power is really felt, mate. And that comes with not trying to do anything. You just do your thing and then disappear, which is really beautiful. So yeah, thank you for sharing those really, really insightful pieces of knowledge there, Sam. Sam, we could keep talking for a very long time. I have lots of respect for you. I've seen you um, running round and round, this year at the Relay for Life when you had your target there set and came down to say hi to you. And you're like, let's just, no stopping, let's just keep moving. And you know how you pivoted because you had an injury. I've seen you when you had the Mo. I've seen you, with your graduation, and I've seen some really, it's been a real privilege watching you grow as a young human. So thank you for jumping on today. Thank you for sharing your stories because we don't see the stories that make you who you are today. Yeah, so as we round off, thank you for jumping on today. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for just being you and authentically yourself. I can't wait to see what happens for you, not just in the medical field, but also that day when you are out there as a referee at a World Cup or at a Olympics. Don't forget me.
I'll never forget you, Pradesh. So thank you so
That's
much.
That's too kind, Sam. Thank you so much, Sam. For our listeners out there, thank you for listening. If you have jumped on, had a listen, and haven't learned anything, go back and listen again because I'm sure you were not listening properly. And again, as always, please free to share this, like this, comment on whatever podcast platform you're listening. It's just through your engagement that this podcast can grow. And we think it's got some beautiful stuff that we can share around the world. Till next time, don't forget to keep safe, keep smiling, and don't forget to put something into your basket of knowledge. Till next time, ka kite. Bye, everybody.
Thank you for listening to Baskets of Knowledge.
Yeah, we hope that you found something useful to put into your basket of knowledge. And as we said before, remember to put something little into your baskets of knowledge every week. And as always, feel free to like, comment, and share this podcast. Thanks, everybody. Bye.